Welcome back, everyone. Psychic Medium Angelo here. You are watching Wrestling with the Future. And I am once again joined by my affable co-host, the man Flying Brian Pillman Jr. calls large and in charge. He is the Encyclopedia Britannica of pro wrestling, Jeff the Ref Robinson.
Hey, you come up with newer nicknames for me every single week. I love it. I love it.
And I will continue, so shut up.
I'm waiting for the one time you go to introduce me. It's going to be like a 3-minute long dialogue, just to say like all my nicknames all in there at once.
I'm still writing that one.
Real quick, I don't know if you remember Joel Gertner back in ECW, and he would introduce the Dudleys, and he'd be like, and he would have like that 10-minute long, soliloquy of what,
yes.
Anyway, yeah. So.
Oh, I remember Joel very well.
Yeah.
You know what? And it's funny because he's still wearing that neck brace gimmick.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, that's what he got recognized for, so.
Yeah. It's funny. You know what, Jeff? It's interesting because you almost wouldn't recognize him without it.
He's lost a tremendous amount of weight, and God bless him for it.
I heard it.
Here and hey, more power to him for being able to do so because, so anyway.
Good for him. Yeah. Well, so tell me about your week. What happened to you? What happened with Jeff the Ref this week? Anything worth talking about?
Oh, nothing. I mean, wrestling-wise, nothing. Me and my significant other, we celebrated 7 years yesterday.
Congratulations.
So quick shout-out. She knows who she is, but shout-out to my princess. And I will not put her name over, but she knows who she is because I've always called her my princess. So
good enough. We'll keep her anonymous.
Yeah, that's that way.
There you go.
So really haven't had too much happening. I mean, I know we've had a lot happening behind the scenes here.
Oh boy.
And
oh boy.
That needless to say, Latino Heat has been very busy.
I'll tell you what, man. Latino Heat has been one busy hombre. And I don't know whether I'm going to call him Latino Heat or Speedy Gonzalez from now on.
I know. Well, why don't you go ahead? I'll let you go ahead and say it. I mean, we are now, if I'm not mistaken, on pretty much every available pod listening device possible.
We are everywhere now.
Yeah.
We are on laptop. We are on mobile. We are on iPhone. We now have, of course, in addition to the YouTube channel.
You're right.
Our Wrestling with the Future YouTube channel, which you can find very easily by Googling or going right on the YouTube and typing in Wrestling with the Future. Yep. We are there.
Yep.
We are now on Podbean,
yes,
Stitcher, Spotify, iHearts, Google Play, iTunes is what we're technically on iTunes, although they haven't worked out a particular bug that's keeping our podcast from playing, but we are across all media platforms. The only one that's still not working just yet is iTunes, but we are everywhere.
I mean, I'm not going to say watch out, Conrad Thompson, we're coming for you, but the rest of the little fish in the pond, hey, here we come.
Well, it's funny because somebody, and I want to tell you, and you already know, but I'm going to tell for the benefit of the people watching now and listening to our show on all of our platforms, that I went to a show this week.
Yeah.
I had a very, very interesting evening. It was a very good show put on by the National Wrestling Alliance. It's NWA Dog, New Jersey.
Okay.
Shout out to my friend Jaden Zirconium, the promoter. Great guy. Hell of a promoter. Put on a great show.
Now, I got to ask you real fast, actually. I've been meaning to ask you this. Was that your first show in a long time?
My first show in about 5 years.
Okay. I was just kind of curious. Okay.
Yeah, my first indie show in about 5 years, and I haven't attended a major league show, a big time show, and probably 11.
Wow.
Yeah, the last show I saw was a WWE show at the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia.
So NWA Dog this past weekend.
Yeah, but and anybody who knows me will tell you that I actually prefer to go to indie shows. I like the intimacy of a smaller venue, a smaller crowd where you're not like lost in the shuffle.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the action is up close and and personal. It's right up front.
Yeah.
So and going to an indie show, there's never a bad seat in the house.
Nope. And you put over the venue where my promotion, our home venue, whenever we do most of our shows are there at the Masonic Temple, and it's like a Globe Theater type setting where.
Oh, I love that. I love that venue. Vanguard Championship Wrestling runs a venue that it's absolutely gorgeous. It's a Masonic Temple. It's a theater style.
Yeah.
In nature, it has a stage.
Yep.
That is the entranceway.
Mm-hmm.
That leads to the ring, and it's a great. It's the perfect setup for a wrestling show.
And because of it having the higher ceilings, and then it being a theater type setting, to me it's kind of even more intimate than you would even at an armory or even a high school gym.
Oh yeah.
And on top of that, the noise bounces off the ceiling and travels back down. So I mean, when that crowd starts really rumbling,
yeah,
I mean that place is jumping. It really, I mean.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting you say that because we had a smaller than normal crowd Saturday night because of inclement weather. But the people that did show up were very, let's put it this way, they were raucous. Yes. They were very loud. And they were made even louder by the very high ceiling in the venue.
Yep.
And so, and I'm going to put over that show. It was the NWA Dog. It was called Wraith of Champions, and it was a benefit show to raise funds for Sonny Boyd. Sonny is the son of NWA Dog champion Breaker Morant.
Okay.
And he has stage 1 brain cancer, and they were, they were hopeful to raise some money for him. They raised some thanks to the efforts of people like J.J. Dillon, who showed up, Tatanka, Brian Pillman Jr., the Hearts, and of course our local heroes.
Yeah.
But I just want to say a shout out to Sonny Boyd. Get well, kid. We're pulling for you, and
thoughts and prayers to him, man.
And to his father, Matt. I told you in person, Matt, but I'm just going to put a shout out. I love you, brother, and whatever I can do for you, I'm here.
I'll be prayer for the little guy myself. So
yeah, I appreciate it. I want prayers for Sonny Boyd. He's a good little kid. So let me tell you about my interesting interactions.
Yes,
Saturday night. Whenever I go anywhere now, of course I'm a podcast host, so I have to put over the podcast, and I did so. First thing, I walked in the door Saturday night. Of course, before the show started, I got there early to meet some of the boys and some of my friends and hang out with them, and like I always did when I ran shows. So I showed up a little early, and who do I see? Stretched out like the Godfather is J.J. Dillon, sitting in a reclining chair with his feet up, with his WWE Hall of Fame ring on his hand. And, of course, I introduced myself, and I put over the podcast. And I asked J.J., would you consider doing my podcast? I know you got other things going on right now, but I'd really love to have you as a guest. And to my surprise, he said, sure. So he has my phone number now. J.J. Dillon has my phone number.
Well, there you go. Future guest.
Absolutely.
I'm getting some bad echo here. Just to let you know.
Sorry, Jeff. Let me lower my microphone.
No, I mean, I can hear myself bouncing off of you and behind.
Oh, okay. Well, we are live, so sometimes these things happen.
Hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, we'll have to try.
It's doing better now, so.
Oh, okay. I pushed my microphone back just a little bit.
Okay, that works.
Okay. So, and at the show, as I said, there were several names there.
Yeah.
After the show, and before I tell you what happened after the show, I did get to speak with Tatanka a little bit.
Yeah, Chris.
And he traded, of course, he wouldn't do the podcast, but because he said he'd rather, to be honest with you, I think he wants to hold out for money. And that's fine. And I don't blame a guy for making $1.
No, you can't fault for making $1, but I mean, in all honesty, this day and age, nobody gets paid to do a podcast. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. And I don't think he does a lot of podcasts, to be honest with you.
No, yeah.
Shoot interviews. I've seen he does a lot of shoot interviews, but of course he's getting paid for it too.
That's what I think. But if that genre, in my opinion, is going to be dying out even more and more so. I mean,
yeah. I think that we're the reason, Jeff. I believe that it's dying out.
Oh, no doubt. Because if it weren't for podcasts, I mean, when you are having a podcast and you're more or less doing a shoot interview with the guy, whoever's on, so it's no different than the way that they used to run their shoots. I hate to see somebody like Kayfabe or Kayfabe Commentaries. He's now actually dipping his foot into the podcast from Sean Oliver.
Yeah.
But see, he kind of had to follow into that realm because, as he said, he was no longer making money at Kayfabe Commentaries.
Yeah.
And, when he first came on the scene, I mean, brother had a different idea as far as instead of being a traditional shoot interview, he did what he called You Shoot, which was the fans writing in the questions or YouTubing them. And man, I mean, you talk about a unique concept. He doesn't know, and the wrestler damn sure doesn't know what's getting ready to come out of that fan's mouth.
Well, here's the problem. The problem that Sean had at Kayfabe Commentaries is that people were pirating his videos.
Yep.
And uploading his videos for free to YouTube, so people weren't buying them.
Yep, and he wasn't able to keep up with the amount that was going out versus the amount of money he had coming in.
Yeah. So, but I would. There's a guy I'd like to have as a guest on the show sometime.
Absolutely, I would love to have Sean on here because I think he'd be a great dude.
So, if Sean Oliver is listening to us, or anyone who knows Sean Oliver,
yes,
let him know that the psychic and the ref are putting a shout out to Sean Oliver from Kayfabe Commentaries to appear with us on Wrestling with the Future podcast.
There you go.
So now let me get back to what happened after the show. I went back to say hi to my friend Breaker, the NWA Dog Champion, Breaker Morant.
Yep.
And ran into a very, very nice, cordial, incredibly talented young man by the name of Flying Brian Pillman Jr. Now, my segue was kind of interesting because Brian and I both appeared on the same podcast one day apart. We were on the Kenny Bowling Alley.
Yeah.
Shout out to Kenny Bowling. And I appeared with Kenny doing psychic readings the day before Flying Brian came on and did an interview with Kenny.
Right.
So my intro to him was, so I hear I opened up for you on the Kenny Bowling Alley podcast. And he laughed. I said, I'm the psychic. He goes, You're shorter than I expected you to be.
That's right.
And we got to talking a little bit, and I was very, very touched to see that when he wrestled that night, he had on his dad's wrestling trunks.
Yeah.
The Hollywood Blondes trunks. And there's a story behind it. And in fact, you told me some of it, and he told me the rest. He got these tights from a fan who purchased them at an auction and presented them to him at StarCast in Las Vegas. At StarCast 2, I believe.
Yeah.
Am I right, Jeff?
Yeah,
StarCast 2?
It was StarCast 2. And prior to that, the fan who had his dad's Hollywood Blondes jacket had given him the test. So now he actually had the complete ensemble.
Yeah, he sure does.
And you know what? To the fans, and I don't know who they are, so I can't give you guys credit on our podcast, but to the fans who actually gave it back to him and said they knew that his dad would want him to have that, and they didn't charge Brian whatever they had paid at auction or on eBay. Yeah. Bless them for that and doing the right thing. And because unfortunately Brian, he lost his dad when he was only 5.
Yeah.
And aside from stories that those of us who knew him or hung out with him or anything he has nothing really to go with of his dad's legacy. Yeah. I mean, I'll be the first to tell you his mom is not an upstanding citizen as far as in his world. I mean, when you refer to your own mom by her first name.
It's a sad situation. It really is, Jeff.
It is a very sad situation. But, I mean, what I was going to say is it says a lot when the kid refers to his mom by her first name. And he doesn't call her mom, No. It's, that's, he's actually said that he wants to come on here. And it's just a matter of us being able to figure out a date and a time because the kid stays busy. I mean,
oh boy, he sure does. And I'll tell you what, he could have just blown me off.
Yeah.
He could have just shook my hand and blew me off and said, well, thanks for coming and, drive safely. But he actually hung out with me for about a half an hour.
Yeah.
And I asked him to appear on the show. He has my phone number now.
Yeah.
And he said absolutely he would love to. And surprisingly, it's funny, wrestlers don't usually get invites to do wrestling podcasts by a psychic.
Very true.
That's not a normal thing that happens. But come to find out that his aunt is very much into what I do.
Yeah.
And that opened the door to the conversation. So I want to say shout out to Brian Pillman's aunt.
Yeah.
Thank you. I will not disappoint you, whoever you are.
But his aunt, and just really quick sidebar, his aunt is who he credits with raising him and his sister.
Yes.
And more or less guiding him into, him making sure he went to college and making sure that he kept his nose clean, more or less, when he could have gone down a very, very, very bad path.
Yeah. He didn't, Jeff, he didn't allude to that much.
Right.
And I certainly understand why.
Mm-hmm.
But suffice it to say, we will have Flying Brian Pillman Jr. on the show. And now,
he has an amazing story. So it's
it sure is.
And he's just
now. I'm going to make you very happy.
Yeah,
because you told me a Jack Victory story the last show that we did.
Yeah, I did.
And I reached out to Jack Victory.
Okay.
And I have a little bit of a past with Jack Victory.
Yeah, you said so.
I remember when he was wrestling for a New Jersey promotion under the name Jackie Valiant.
Wow.
He was one of the alleged Valiant brothers. He was inspired by, handsome Jimmy and luscious Johnny Valiant.
Yeah.
The Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant. And so Jack Victory was Jackie Valiant, and I reminded him of that at our meeting. And I put out an invite to him. Surprise, surprise. Well, guess what? He said, yep, give me the date, give me the time, I'm there.
That is
so.
Awesome.
We will have Jack Victory probably somewhere middle November.
I can't wait to tell him my story.
It looks like we're going to do November the 12th.
Okay.
And that show will drop on November the 13th.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it.
So that's a heads up. That's one confirmed. I just got to confirm JJ and Flying Brian Jr.
And I've been in discussion with Colby Carino, also CW Anderson, working out particulars with them. CW is staying busy right now. I mean, brother is doing a lot of serious work, and it's almost like he's coming into, as he says, he feels better now than he did when he first got started in the business. So
yeah,
I mean, he's lost a lot of weight, and he's looking really good and doing really good. So,
fantastic.
Yeah. So sounds like you had a really good weekend, man.
I had a really, really good. I had a really busy week.
Yeah.
Yeah, we we reached out to our various platforms, and now we're on Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, iHeart.
Well, everybody can download a podcast. Pretty much, we are there.
Yeah, we are available now on every mobile device, every laptop.
Yep. We're available on some people's aluminum fillings in their teeth.
Yes, exactly. If you stand right toward the sun.
There you go.
So, Jeff.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into this week's content. By the way, we came up with a slogan for our show.
Yeah.
Intelligent wrestling conversation.
I like that. I really
And
do.
you're going to find conversation here at Wrestling with the Future you won't find on any other wrestling podcast. And we're very proud of that.
I mean, the one thing I like to say is, and I was, as somebody actually pointed out to me, is they said, me and you kind of do a point and counterpoint. And you may even go in with a set opinion, and I'll show you a different side of it from almost like an insider perspective of maybe this is why they're going or doing whatever they're doing,
Right.
And
absolutely.
And they said versus a lot of people, a lot of podcasts out there these days, and I ain't talking about the big boys. I mean, I'm talking about the other regular podcasts, wrestling podcast. They tend to just want to down talk the wrestling business and this is what's wrong with the WWE today, and this is what's wrong with, brother, if we were all meant to be bookers, then we would be a booker, but we're not.
Well, the thing is, I come into this not as an insider, even though I promoted for over 20 years, 22 years. But that was a very long time ago, and I've been out of the business for a really, really long time. And one of the things that I rely upon for you to bring to the table that you do every week so well is to dispel what I think is the truth, because I come into this with an opinion based on what is supposed to be the truth, and you'll say, well, no, that's not what happened. That's not the way it is.
Yeah.
And I like that because, I'm not, and I'll be the first to tell you, I'm not always right. And nor should I be.
Right. So,
but the thing that we do that I think separates everybody else, and you and I have had this conversation. It seems like everyone who watches wrestling now is an expert.
Yep.
Everybody's an expert. Well, I don't claim to be. I don't pretend to be.
Nope.
If I don't know, I'm going to tell you I don't know.
If anything, I've kind of opened your eyes back up into wanting to watch wrestling again. Because
I'm watching again for the first time in a long time.
I'll tell you what, because I know the first few conversations we had, you definitely were like, I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want to watch it. It's crap. It's, he basically.
Yeah, tell everybody the conversation you and I had about a podcast.
We were butting heads more or less. I mean, it was, you're wanting to go one direction. I'm going, no, we need to go this direction. And you're going, no, kid, I want to go this direction. And I'm going, you don't understand. This is the way we need to go, because I'm telling you, the wrestling podcasts are a happening thing. And you were going, I don't want anything to do with that stupid wrestling business.
Right.
You said, you're stuck in the bubble. You're this, you're that. And I'm going, no, I'm not. I'm like, you got to understand.
Well, now, Jeff, how old am I?
Old enough.
Yeah, I'm 60. Okay.
And I'm 42. We got 20 years almost between us.
Yeah, and you're a kid.
And
I have a daughter almost your age.
Exactly. I think that, again, we're giving some definite sidebar here, but going into a little bit behind the scenes of me and you getting started.
That's okay. We got all afternoon.
It was definitely interesting because, I convinced you. It wasn't the other way around.
Very much so. Right.
I convinced you kicking and screaming.
Yeah. And I will tell everyone listening that I went into this shaking my hand, going, it'll never work. It'll never work. And come to find out, I'm looking, and we got subscribers every week, new people joining every week, and we've got downloads like crazy. And I'm thinking to myself, people are actually downloading our show.
And we have barely even scratched the surface of what we're doing.
Well, we should tell everybody this is week 5. We're only into week 5.
Yep. And I want to say this too. At various times, we may have other shows besides our main show that we may decide to go to YouTube and do a show or.
We will definitely have. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up for people. We're definitely going to have specials.
Yeah.
Where we take the deep dive into a particular subject, and we're going to discuss that subject for the whole show.
Right.
I'll give everybody the heads up, Jeff. We actually have a show coming up, probably in a week or two, where we are going to discuss nothing but wrestling finances.
That's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
I don't think that fans, just to give you a really quick way where my stance is on it, I don't think that fans realize exactly. They'll sit there and say, oh, they need to be paid better. They need this, they need that. I don't think that they realize how much actually goes into the production of a show. When you consider really quick that a Monday Night Raw, to run a Raw with fire, pyro, paying the boys, paying your.
Yeah, exactly.
You're talking upwards of $300,000 to $400,000 an episode.
Yeah.
That's not cheap.
No, it's certainly not.
And if you happen to take one on the chin because you didn't sell out the arena, that money's got to come from your ad revenue or wherever else it's got to come from.
Absolutely, of course. Look, there's no free lunch. Somebody's got to pay for it.
There you go. And I mean, that's basically where we're going to be headed to when we do the episode on wrestling finances. Now, okay, enough stalling. Let's get into the big news of today that dropped.
Okay, I know you're chomping at the bit, so lay it on me, Jeff.
At 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock this morning. I know I was texting you, telling you a huge news announcement, and here it is. The WWE's got their Crown Jewel show over in Saudi Arabia tomorrow, Halloween, and I want to say start time is at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in the States. It was just announced this morning, for the first time ever, they're going to allow women to compete in front of the crowd over there in the Middle East, and it's going to be Natty Neidhart versus Lacey Evans. Lacey Evans is a former U.S. Marine. God bless her for her service that she gave to our country. And Natty Neidhart, is a legend in the business. And, I think Natty, if you want to get technical, in my opinion, I think Natty really has earned the spot versus anybody who's even champion versus Charlotte or anybody. Natty has been around for the last 10 plus years. She was around when it was nothing but when it was all about the divas before they actually got into the wrestling. You had a girl that was bred to wrestle who had to deal with a 2 or 3 minute match with a girl who had no care about being in the wrestling business.
Right.
And I ain't talking Natty. I mean, whoever her opponent may have been. And she may have to even put the girl over. She may have been doing the favors, doing the honors. Now, and so I think Natty, in my opinion, deserves that. And here's why this is.
Well, I was just going to ask you this question, Jeff. And forgive my interruption for a moment.
Go ahead.
But why is this such a big deal for the WWE, and why is it an even bigger deal outside of the world of wrestling? What's the significance of all of this?
I mean, as I texted you this morning and even said, this has political ramifications to a point. And I ain't talking like on a presidential type level, but
okay, explain.
Here's the deal. You're talking Saudi Arabia, Middle Eastern country, Muslim the Muslim religion is their religion, where they're women, and I'm not talking disparagingly about the country or the religion, but the women are viewed as second-class citizens more or less over there. And they are not allowed to do much of anything with their husbands or men in general because of how they're viewed. And the WWE, we're going to give it a little bit of history really quick. WWE, when they first went over there to Saudi Arabia, the Prince of Saudi Arabia is the one that is paying mega huge millions of dollars to have WWE come over there 2 times a year.
I heard, Jeff, the Saudi government paid $1 billion.
I don't know
for the first crown jewel.
I don't know how accurate that figure is. I mean, it's anywhere between like 500 million to $1 billion. I mean, it's in between those two. No real number has been, to my knowledge, released. I'm sure if I was a shareholder that had enough shares, I could find out, but I'm not.
Well, Dave Meltzer reported in Wrestling Observer that the Saudis paid $1 billion to WWE.
That very well
just for the first crown jewel.
No. That part. Okay, let me correct that really quick.
Now see, this is why, and for people who are listening, this is why Jeff the Ref is here.
It was the Saudi government paid for a 5-year deal.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes better sense.
They are guaranteed at least 2 shows a year. Now, all they're guaranteed is a show. WWE could put on a crap show, but what they have said, they told the Saudi, the prince or the government basically, you tell us the matches you want, we'll do what we can to make them happen. I mean, when you got Tyson Fury, who is a boxer, getting ready to face Braun Strowman at this next Crown Jewel pay-per-view, he's getting ready to make $15 million for a payoff.
That's a staggering amount of money.
That's more than he's ever made for a boxing match, and he's a world heavyweight champ in boxing.
Let's talk about that. The money that they're paying, and I've heard people argue this point, but the money that they're paying a non-wrestler for a wrestling match is more than they're paying their highest paid guy right now, who I believe may be either Seth Rollins or Brock Lesnar.
But keep in mind that money isn't coming out of WWE's pockets, coming out of the Saudi government.
Oh, true. Okay, good point. Good point.
Goldberg was paid $5 million to come back to face Taker.
And we saw how that went.
Well, I mean, it was a debacle, but hey,
it was a big debacle.
I mean,
Goldberg knocked himself out.
Shawn Michaels had stayed retired, had been offered at least $1 million plus to come back for WrestleMania matches, and then told Vince, no.
Right.
He gets offered like $4 million to come back for the Saudi government. He jumped. So to quote the $1 Million Man, everybody's got a price.
Well, for sure in wrestling, that is for sure.
So, but okay.
That's just staggering. That kind of money, though.
It is. No, it's insane money that this man is spending to bring the WWE over there, and
this is why we're going to have a show just on wrestling finances.
Yeah,
because this is crazy stuff.
So the first Crown Jewel went down 2 years ago.
Okay.
I believe it was. Yeah, it was 2 years ago. They've had, this will be their fourth one coming up. So it was either 2 years ago or 1 year ago. Anyway, the first one happened, and significantly, the WWE had asked, they said, we are a family environment. Would you all allow the women of your country to attend with their husbands and sons or daughters, whatever?
Right.
They actually allowed that to happen, but the women had to stay in full head garb down to, their
regular. I noticed that when I did watch that show on the network.
That right there was a big step, because prior to that, no other sporting event had the Saudi women been allowed to attend with their husband.
Right.
So
it's considered taboo.
Mm-hmm. It's more or less against religion.
You're true, yeah.
And then WWE came under fire, though, because they're like, you're going over there, to Saudi Arabia, where you guys are claiming to be all about women's empowerment and the women's movement, and this is right around when and they're like, so, but yet they're against women being allowed to even go to the show, let alone wrestle on the show. And WWE corporate, their response was they had an awesome response. Their response was, it's not our job to change religious law. Our job, though, is to bring entertainment and to hopefully open their eyes to more things.
Right.
Now, this Saudi prince, the Saudi Arabian prince, who is bringing the wrestling over there, he is a younger man, and he is more open to some of the Western culture that we have over here.
Okay, now let me stop you there, Jeff. Let me ask you. You say he's a younger guy, right? This the prince, and he's very much though a part of the Saudi royal family.
He is.
Now, is he the son of the main sheik there?
I'm not. You know what? You're asking something I do not know. I know that he's got enough power, though, that he can get. He's able to have the wrestling come there. He's able to have certain things allowed. And
I'm surprised that I asked you something you don't know the answer to.
Well, you're talking now. You're talking a whole nother level, like world politics almost, that I'm not, but so familiar with on that level. But what I was going to say was, he is open to change slowly over there. And they are slowly allowing more and more things to happen, such as women are now allowed to drive over in that country when they never have been allowed to before.
Well, the fact that he's allowing 2 female athletes to compete is,
there you go.
That's staggering. That's like groundbreaking. But now it's the question that I would ask, and just hear me out for a minute. The question I would ask is, what type of, granted, he's allowing women to wrestle. Okay.
Yeah.
But we know that you're not going to change, 5,000 years of history overnight. So what type of ring attire can you expect that they'll wear?
Probably a full bodysuit.
Okay, kind of like what Natalia wears, something kind of very clad, like almost
similar to what Natty wears right now.
When you say it's like a kind of leathery looking,
yeah.
Right
here it is. Okay, a couple of years ago, and this is actually what kind of led to the Saudi government being or allowing this to happen. A couple of years ago, the WWE was in another Muslim nation of I do not remember the country's name, and forgive me for that one.
I believe it was Qatar.
Okay, and they allowed Sasha Banks to take on Alexa Bliss in a match between two women that they normally would not allow.
Yeah.
And they wrestled in a full body suit from the neck down. They were covered.
Yeah, that was, by the way, that was in Qatar,
Yeah.
which is in Iraq.
And okay, and here was what was, as a lot of the girls, you know, Lacey, or not Lacey, Alexa and Sasha, and even Stephanie McMahon, who was over there, had said, what was really cool was after that match, the women in the audience started chanting, "This is hope."
I actually heard that.
So that being, you know, we'll fast forward to where we are today with the Saudi government tomorrow allowing Natty Neidhart to face Lacey Evans. Keep in mind that the last Crown Jewel last year that they had, the last Saudi event that they did, I want to say it was Charlotte and Natty. They were on standby. They had actually taken a flight over there because they were trying to talk the government, and he and the prince was, I mean, that close to making the decision then to allow it to happen, but he pulled the plug.
Yeah.
And now they're allowing it. So,
yeah.
And like I said, the reason why I say it's politically kind of changing is the climate over there is changing. And for them.
Well, Jeff, let me ask you a question. We're talking about the political climate as well as the cultural climate.
Yeah.
You know, let's be real. Let's be really real about this. Vince McMahon is, I mean, he's no slouch politically. I mean,
right.
He's friends with the president of the United States,
Donald Trump, president of the United States.
His wife works for the president of the United States. At his leisure, she works for him.
Right.
How much do you think? And let's just get inside here now, and try to get into the headspace. How much do you think that Vince McMahon's political connections brought about this change?
That's interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a little bit or a phone call from one person to another on the inside, that from somebody in the White House over to them, that could have happened. Or, I mean, you know, but you're also talking an entertainment business, a sporting entertainment business, and I don't know that they would necessarily want to politically get wrapped up into that.
Well, however, it's not the first time, Jeff, that politics and sports.
No, because even the last time that they went over there to Saudi, they were under the gun because that was right after the beheading of the U.S. reporter had happened.
Yeah, sure was.
And WWE came under the gun. I mean, they even had senators saying you shouldn't go over there. You know.
Well, they came under the gun, as I recall, for going over as quickly as they did. The argument being made was too soon.
Yeah, they were saying too, and you know, you had senators then who were trying to say you all shouldn't go, but whatever. I mean, it's you got to sit there. I mean, that's a fine line to tread. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
You know, there years ago, I heard, you know, it's a true story. It was during the 80s when Israel was at the height of their war with, I want to say Pakistan, may have been, I don't remember. But the Harlem Globetrotters went over there and they said, we'll play a game as long as there's no missiles or guns or anything being fired while we play.
Right. Yeah.
For an hour, the 2 hours that these guys played and were doing their game.
Yes.
The two sides didn't shoot at each other.
Yeah, that was Palestine is what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
Palestine.
Okay. And
Israel and Palestine.
My point being, I think when it comes to a sporting event or an entertainment event, when you're talking for your whole country to come out and see, I think you're willing to do certain things and drop certain laws or allow certain things to happen that you may not normally allow to happen. What I was saying though is by the Saudi government allowing this, that means they're allowing more Western culture over there. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, no, certainly not.
It's definitely a plus for the women of that country.
Oh, absolutely.
And, you know, they're. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that overnight that we're all suddenly going to start seeing women considered on the same level as men, because again, you're asking for religious law to more or less be changed at that point in thousands of years of law.
Oh, yeah. And anything, look, let's be honest about it. Anything that's worth changing is going to take a long struggle.
It sure does. But little steps like this are significant. And, you know,
no doubt, absolutely.
You know, for the WWE to be the very first to have a women's sporting contest to take place, that's awesome. And you know what? I mean, I hope they go in there and they knock it out of the park. I really do. I hope these women don't let the nerves get the best of them, knowing how much of the weight of the world is kind of on their shoulders, and all eyes will be on them.
So let's give them a quick plug since we're talking about Crown Jewel. When is Crown Jewel?
Crown Jewel is tomorrow night or tomorrow day on the WWE Network, live at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Halloween night or Halloween day for us. And it starts at 1 p.m. And besides the women's match that we've been talking about here, Natty and Lacey, we're going to have The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, my favorite, going on the roster right now, taking on Seth Rollins in a Falls Count Anywhere match. One match that's being really hyped right now is Brock Lesnar, Kane. I can't say his last name.
Cain Velasquez.
Yeah. The only UFC fighter to knock out Brock Lesnar and beat him and gave him the scar under his eye is going to be coming in for this match. You know, I expect Kane to actually win it. I really do. I don't expect them to eat. It's a non-title match, but if anything, you're going to set up for them at WrestleMania.
It's interesting. It's very funny too, because I saw when Cain Velasquez made his WWE entrance, I saw real fear on the face of Brock Lesnar for the first time.
Yep.
Knowing that this guy legit knocked him out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And if you look at Cain Velasquez, he doesn't look like he could knock Brock Lesnar out.
No. But
he's not a hard body guy.
No.
He's not a bodybuilder. He looks like and I'm going to be honest with you, he looks like a guy that just got out of prison.
You know, and I was going to say, he doesn't look like somebody I'd want to tangle with, but he doesn't look like a badass that's also beat Brock Lesnar. And
no.
I mean, he owned Brock Lesnar in the UFC.
Yeah.
I mean, to steal a term, he made Brock his bitch.
Well,
I mean,
that's why I make the prison reference. He looks like a guy that just got out of the joint.
Yeah, he does, and that's not saying anything bad about him. I mean,
no, I'm not. I'm certainly not disparaging the guy. He's, you know, I actually heard an interview he did with Dave LaGreca and Bully Ray on Busted Open Radio. Shout out to Dave LaGreca and Bully Ray at Busted Open.
Yep.
And Kane and Rey Mysterio and did an interview, and he sounded like a really decent guy.
I mean,
my issue is that he just doesn't look like a guy who could beat up Brock Lesnar legit.
But you know, if you know the fact that it's happened, now you got it in your head as a fan. You're gonna, you know what? You're gonna have people watching to see, do they go off the rails and go into business for themselves?
Well, and that's already being talked about.
I mean,
you know, Brock has a history.
He does.
Of going into business for himself. Well, let's just go back to the Randy Orton incident. You know, and where he hard way busted open Randy Orton.
Yeah,
for shoot.
I mean, okay, here's the deal. How much of that, though, do you think wasn't Randy and him getting together beforehand and him asking Brock, hey, Brock, we need to get color. It's going to make the match look more intense. Can you legit hardway me and do it as quick as possible, as easy as possible? Not that Brock could be easy about it, because I'll tell you what, that man throwing a tater at you, you're going to feel it for the next 5 days. So,
you know, Jeff, you are such a cynic. You are so cynical about wrestling, but you think like a fan, and I like that.
Well, I mean, it's the way I look at it is,
well, and but that's the illusion of wrestling. You don't know nowadays. You don't know what's real and what's.
That's when they can grab you and bring you in, is whenever they make you ask, oh shit, was that legit?
Well, you know, I saw that when it happened, the Lesnar Orton match.
Oh no, he gave him legit bows to the head.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, what I'm alluding to is how much of that wasn't Randy getting together with Brock ahead of time? We're in a Hell in a Cell. What's going to sell this match even more brutally than you busted me open? And not to mention, the fans already look at you as this badass that can do anything.
Now, is the reason for that, Jeff, just to get people talking?
Oh, absolutely. Dude, they had Chris Jericho convinced in the back that it was legit.
I heard Jericho went after Lesnar and confronted him.
And Lesnar said, back it up, little man, you don't know everything.
Interesting comment by Brock Lesnar.
So why would you say that?
I wouldn't want Brock Lesnar angry at me, let's put it that way.
No, neither would I. I mean, you know, you want to know who I think is the ultimate worker in the business right now? Is Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman.
Oh, Paul for sure.
Because
Paul is brilliant.
Okay, there was, here it is. People even question this. There was a behind the scenes of WrestleMania 30 something, and it aired on the network. And they showed Brock Lesnar after his match. I want to say against Goldberg. He had just won the belt.
Right.
And they show him going through Gorilla. He takes it. I mean, he zings the motherfucker at Vince McMahon. He said, here, take your fucking belt, asshole, or something along those lines.
Right.
Now, was he legit pissed, or did he do it because he knew cameras were on him and it would have people talking about?
Well, you know, that's a really good question. That's a real good question, and I will confess I don't know the answer to that.
I don't either. That's why I said he's the ultimate worker right now. Is he does shit and he has everybody going, hold up, maybe that shouldn't have happened. And it started way back when he beat Undertaker and took the streak.
Yeah.
You know, you have people then going, hold up, how do we know that they didn't legit do something funny there?
Well, I mean, he knows how to get people talking. We know that.
There you go. And
if you've got Paul Heyman by your side and he's your mouthpiece, all you need to do is stand there and shut up.
And that's what he does, and he gets paid millions to do it.
And isn't that, now think about that. The art of the promo, when you and I have had that conversation too.
Yes, we have.
Okay? The best promo guy in the business isn't even a worker.
Nope, but he used to be a manager.
True, but he was never a worker. In other words, he was never responsible.
Nobody was. For talking asses into the seats, because he had his guys who he was in charge of,
That's where I was going with it. Yeah.
He had to get guys, he didn't need to worry about getting himself over. He had to worry about getting his talent over to where you're going to want to see. Part of the beauty, and Jim Cornette even says this about him, part of the beauty is I talk you into wanting to see my tag team versus, you know, that other tag team. However, you also as a fan are going to turn up and go, I may not be able, in Paul Heyman's case, he managed the Samoans or whatever. I may not be able to beat the Samoans' ass, but I'll be damned if I can't beat that little pipsqueak's ass.
Right.
And that's their job as a manager. Yeah, you're so pissed. You hate that manager so much. As you know, Cornette, he had somebody, they wrote into a show one time, it made me laugh. somebody wrote in, they said, to the only man who could ever make my church-going granny cuss at the TV. That, you know what I mean? That's when you could do that, you're doing something, man. But
well, it's funny because we think of Vince McMahon as Mr. McMahon, the character, the evil boss.
Yep.
But if you think about it, didn't Paul Heyman do that long before Vince McMahon?
Well, and what, ECW?
And ECW.
I don't know that he was so much as the evil boss as it was that he was.
Well, everybody knew he was the guy running the show.
Oh, yeah, no. He was probably the first to really let the fans in on the secret of I'm the one controlling all the shots. But he put himself out there as I am the one who's the booker. I'm the promoter. Mm-hmm. And if you guys don't like it, tell me. If you love it, tell me.
True.
And he made himself, and see, fans. I loved ECW, but I hate them all at the same time. I mean, I got a love-hate with them.
Yeah, but Jeff, it was Paul. If you look back on it now, if we look back on the history of ECW, it was Paul Heyman that did 95% of all the trash talking.
Yeah.
And I believe that was by purpose design. That was a deliberate thing of Paul putting himself out there as the heel, if you will, as the heavy.
I don't think it would, but he painted himself.
What are your thoughts on that? Tell me.
No, okay, I think Paul Heyman painted himself as the babyface to the ECW crowd, and even to the ECW locker room. And he may have been a heel to the other promoters, or they may have looked at him that way because. I mean, every time WCW turned around, he was suing them, and then he was on WWE's payroll. I mean, it's so. He would sit there and get the boys. It was an us against them mentality of we're the little fish in the big pond, and we're swimming upstream, and it's us versus them.
Well, he positioned himself right from the get-go as the misfits and malcontents.
Yep.
Because the locker room was basically a bunch of guys from Philadelphia and New York that nobody ever heard of.
And a bunch of WWF and WCW cast-offs.
Yeah.
That they wanted nothing to do with.
And that basically made enough noise that they garnered the attention of the media, and in a very big way.
Yeah, but as much noise as here was the thing. As much noise and ruckus as they caused, the most crowd that they ever drew was like 5,500 people.
True. This is true.
They could sit there and trash WCW and WWF and say how much better their product was and how they offered wrestling against, what you were used to seeing, and we have hardcore and we're doing this. And they did, and they definitely were. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they may show up to a venue and only draw 300.
Well, in fairness, though, at the time, Paul Heyman was financing the entire operation out of pocket.
Yep.
And going from hand to mouth, and he will tell you the same thing. But the other thing is that the ECW arena in Philadelphia was a legit bingo hall.
Yeah.
That only held 1,200 people, and they used to get 1,500 to 2,000 in that building.
Well, here's my argument, though, is if they were that good of a product, you could have gone and taken your show on the road, which they did do and do house shows.
Yeah, but you can do that if you have the money to buy a big building.
They ran my local concert amphitheater that seats 20,000 people.
Okay.
They may have drawn 500 for the show.
Wow. And when was this, Jeff?
99, 2000, 98, 99.
Okay, so let's look let's look at ECW in 1999, 2000. They were kind of on their last leg.
They were, but so then why were they running? Why were they running a 20,000 seating amphitheater?
Unless they got a hell of a sweet deal on it, unless it was given to them for nothing.
They ran another concert venue called the Boathouse, which they actually had no seating in this joint, no seating. It was a standing room only, and they may have drawn 350 people for a venue that normally standing room only for a concert would sell out at 2,500.
Wow, see, I didn't know any of this.
So I'm not taking away from what ECW meant to the wrestling business,
right,
and wrestlers' careers. I'm saying here we go. They were a niche product for a niche audience.
Okay.
But they were not mainstream. Paul Heyman had them convinced that they could be mainstream. He just didn't have the money to go mainstream.
Well, to go mainstream with that product, you would have had to have advertisers that were extremely liberal, knowing the kind of product that ECW was.
Yep.
Let's be real clear about it. It was hardcore wrestling that didn't have a name hardcore yet.
There you go. Now, here we go. We're going to fast forward. ECW died. Out of ECW spawned ROH.
Okay, Ring of Honor.
Right. Ring of Honor was originally founded by Rob Feinstein from RF Video.
Yep.
And Gabe Sapolsky, who was actually the writer and booker, whatever you want to call him, talent man for ROH for the beginning all the way up until 2008, 2009-ish.
Yeah, Gabe Sapolsky was the writer and booker.
Yeah,
and that I know.
And Gabe actually sat under the learning tree of Paul Heyman.
Yes, he did.
So,
well, Gabe started out as a fan that used to attend matches at the arena.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And actually, how he got started was he drove Paul Heyman home one night.
Yep.
So
and they
if you're going to learn, learn from the master,
So, but what I was going to say is ECW spawned ROH. They got that same group of fans that enjoyed ECW.
Yeah.
Turned out for ROH.
Right.
However, ROH has now since been sold to Sinclair, a major company, but they've never gotten out of that mindset.
Why is that, Jeff?
I don't know. I can't explain it because.
Well, why is Ring of Honor? And by the way, a great product. I love watching Ring of Honor. The problem, though, is they have yet, and I don't know why. I can't explain it. But they have yet to break out. They're still basically very regional.
They're treading water at this time. I mean,
but even though, think about it, you said it yourself. They have Sinclair Broadcasting. That's a big television outfit.
Part of the problem is Sinclair, as big as they are, they cannot dedicate a certain time to say Ring of Honor fans, we're going to be on Saturday nights at 8 p.m.
Okay, now, Jeff, talk about that a minute, because you and I have had this conversation privately.
Yeah.
Now, and I should tell people, I'm in New Jersey, and Jeff is in Virginia.
Yeah.
I get the Ring of Honor show on Thursday nights at 11 p.m.
And mine comes on, the same one that you'll have watched on Thursday will be on here at Saturday night at 10 p.m.
And so that's part of the problem that Sinclair Broadcasting is having.
It's also the same problem that ECW had.
Yeah, not getting consistent television.
That, and when you put them on and you're late at night, you're not able to get that teenage to kid audience that you need to
Yeah,
really
well, true.
drive your
You're
audience.
not going to get that wrestling demographic at 11 o'clock at night.
Nope. I mean, let's face it, what 10-year-old is even up at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m.? Well, they're not going to be up at 11 p.m. on a Thursday, and not even necessarily on a Saturday at 10 p.m. They're probably going to be playing a video game if they are awake.
True. True enough.
So, I mean, that's part of their problem, I think, is that they don't have a set dedicated time. I mean, one thing that makes AEW, one reason why they were able to explode like they did on TNT and get over so quickly on that was they're on a nationally syndicated cable network, and they were able to say, we're going to be on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Tune in. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Right.
ROH can't do that. ROH,
No.
all they can do is say, tune in and watch us.
So they're at the mercy of Sinclair.
Well, they're at the mercy of whenever their local. No, not Sinclair. It's whatever. Like my local.
Oh, so they're at the mercy of the local market.
There you go. Whenever they want to plug them in, Sinclair says you need to air ROH.
Yeah, whenever you do it is up to you.
You need, and they may even say we need it to air before 2 a.m.
That's a hell of a window, though, brother.
Exactly. So how do you even sell advertising or any kind of prime advertising for your promotion?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't even go to Snickers or M&M or any of the anybody who would even want low budget commercials and make a pitch.
Well, Jeff, that leads me to this question then. How long will Sinclair put up with that before they pull the plug on ROH?
I think that they are hopeful that they'll be able to get, they look at it as, they got the deal with New Japan, that they are on pay-per-view. To their benefit, they don't really run a house show circuit. They do their filming, they'll normally film a month at a time and, a 3 or 4 day time span.
Right.
So that's all a matter of, that's all money saving cost right there, cost saving measures.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that they would have to pull the plug because they may not be losing but so much money.
Well, but you have to think to yourself, though, if you're a television distributor like Sinclair Broadcasting, you've got to think to yourself at some point, when does this product not become financially feasible for us?
I would say once they start actually losing money on whatever it may be that they run. Now,
well, do you know if they're actually losing money or whether are they breaking even?
I would say that I don't know if they're operating in the red or in the black. I'm assuming that they're operating in the black. Otherwise they probably would pull the plug on them. I mean,
well, let me ask you a question. If they're breaking even, are they ahead right now? Then
I think they may just be breaking even.
Would you consider that a win, in your opinion?
I mean, it depends on what you want to consider a win in a promotion. I mean, they don't really have any significant names there right now that are even being talked about as far as talent being looked at.
No, but in fairness, they are still on television.
Oh, no.
Such as it is, but they're still on TV.
Well, I mean, part of the problem is the WWE, because they came along and they offered contracts to, 6, 7 of their talent, and Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, the different ones that make up the Elite. Literally ROH lost in a year, within the last year and a half. They lost a good portion of their roster to AEW and WWE.
And we should mention that Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano are 2 ROH guys that are now 2 of the biggest stars of NXT.
I mean, the Young Bucks came out of ROH. They didn't get started there, but they came from there when, before AEW. Right. Cody came from there before AEW. Kenny Omega was over there before AEW.
Yeah.
And you look at them, and they are the talk of the business right now. And you lost 4 huge names in your promotion, all of a sudden it's just gone.
Yeah.
That hurts.
Well, let's segue, because that's a great segue into where we're going now, which is as we're dropping this on Wednesday. So that means that last night, NWA Power was on.
Yep.
And now they've done something really interesting. They're not on television, but they're on YouTube.
And Facebook.
So give us the heads up on the goings on of NWA Power these days. What's happening in the world of NWA?
Well, NWA Power is really quick. Just they're owned by Billy Corgan, who is a member of the Smashing Pumpkins. He owns and operates all of NWA. He owns the name. He has everything. They are basing that promotion out of Georgia. Filming it in old TV studio setting with the flags in the background, and
it's very much reminiscent. Again, I'm 60, so I remember Georgia Championship Wrestling with Gordon Soley.
Mm-hmm.
And I was fortunate enough, and God rest his soul, but I was fortunate enough to have met Gordon Soley and hang out with him for a while. And Jeff doing his Gordon Soley. But yeah, what Billy did is really interesting, because he recreated the whole studio wrestling feel.
Yeah, he did.
And it looks just like the old NWA Georgia Championship Wrestling.
And they're based in the studio. Nick Aldis is your champion. It has not happened yet. It did happen on their taping, so it's not like I'm breaking news or anything.
Jeff, let me ask you a question. You mentioned something just now, really important. Nick Aldis is their champion. Nick Aldis calls himself the NWA World Heavyweight Wrestling. Listen to what I'm saying. The NWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Champion.
Yep.
So what he's telling me with that statement is that the National Wrestling Alliance is wrestling, and he is the world champion of wrestling.
He conducts himself like the old NWA champions did.
In other words, he is the heavyweight wrestling champion of the world, is what he's saying.
Yep. And when he walks in, he's got a suit and tie on, and he looks the part of a world champion. He really does. For sure he does. And he, amazing talent. Also the husband of Mickey James, so God bless him for that one. And then, but the World Tag Champions, they went with the Rock and Roll Express, won them at the TV taping. 62-year-old Ricky Morton, NWA World Tag Team Champion.
Yeah, I have a problem with that. And for the record, and everybody knows this, Ricky and Robert spent 2 days at my house here in New Jersey. They worked at a couple shows for me.
Great
and
guys.
I love Ricky and I love Robert. They're great guys and they're funny as shit.
Yeah.
But at 62 years of age, and he's 2 years older than I am, by the way, I have a problem. Sorry, Ricky, but I do. I have a problem with Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson holding championship gold at 62 years of age.
Here's the difference. Ricky can still go and keep up with the talent of today.
But isn't the whole idea to spotlight the young guys?
Oh, no, you do want to spotlight the younger talent, but you know what?
Well, you don't do that by putting the strap on a guy 62 years old.
This is just my prediction. This is just me putting on my wrestling thinking cap here.
Well, smarten me up, brother.
You got the Dawson brothers, who are your beast tag team over there in the NWA.
I like them guys a lot.
You had a heel tag team who was your champions. You put the belts on the legends of the Rock and Roll Express. It gives everybody that feel-good moment. Their faces. You have the Dawsons come in and fucking destroy them to get the belts.
Okay, question for you then. Because you're the guy who knows probably where this is going better than I do. You take the straps off of Ricky and Robert.
Yep.
You give them to the Dawsons.
Yep.
A beast heel team if there ever was one. I love those guys.
Trained by George South, by the way.
Yeah. Now, what happens to Ricky and Robert? Do they hang around or do they go fade back into the sunset?
They could probably. I mean, you could either fade them away or else you have them hang out, and you don't even have to strap them again. You can give them a rematch. You can use them to put over other tag teams. And, I mean, let's face it, Ricky and Robert are associated very much so with the NWA name.
Oh, they're iconic, absolutely.
And they're also associated with, the NWA World Tag Belts. If you got a new promotion or you're trying to kick the NWA off the ground, you can't exactly get Ric Flair to be your world champion again. But
true.
So why not go with? It's kind of roundabout way AEW's thinking why they got Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone being the main call guys over there.
Well, now let me ask you a question because you just, whether you know it or not, you just went straight into where I was going.
Okay.
Because here's my question then. If your product, if AEW, now think about this, if AEW, which is the new kids on the block,
yep,
and NWA, which is the old new kids on the block,
right,
yeah, they're coming back. They want fresh eyeballs, right? They want new viewers. Do you really do that with older talent? I understand why Dustin Rhodes is wrestling AEW. Now, hear me out a minute.
Okay.
I understand why Dustin is there. Cody's his brother. He's giving his brother work. I get that.
Yep.
Plus, Dustin is really good.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, people that don't know Dustin but know Cody are going to see Dustin.
Yeah.
They're going to see that he's got, he's a veteran, he's got some experience. If you're the NWA and you're Billy Corgan and you got a ton of money that you're sinking into this new organization that's really an old organization, you want new viewers, but bringing the Rock and Roll Express back is going to bring back old viewers, guys that are older than them.
Because,
why would you do that?
Here it is. The older viewers.
Am I missing something? Or, tell me what I'm missing.
Well, here it is. Here's what I'm going to say. Older viewers are that audience that they're trying to get back. Because they quit watching. They quit watching. If you can get an older fan, i.e. even my age, even a little bit older, will go up. And I tune in because the Rock and Roll Express are there, and I'm going, you know what? Hey, and I got my kid with me. Hey, son, come here. Look, this tag team I grew up, this is what I grew up watching. He watches at the same time, and he finds, oh, I really like this person. I like that person. Now you create a new viewer in the kid.
Okay.
Dad's back to watching. Now you got two new viewers, basically.
All right. Go ahead. I follow you.
Okay. So you don't hurt your product by having those veterans on there because, if anything, what you're doing is you're getting the older eyes back to watching that may have quit watching.
But shouldn't you use them sparingly, Jeff?
Oh, yeah. I would use a Rock and Roll Express very sparingly. I would.
Well, now, keep that thought there for a minute because I'm going to tie in this question to what we're talking about.
Okay.
We spoke earlier in the podcast about Crown Jewel.
Yeah.
Now, we should say that Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan are going to be a Crown Jewel.
Yep.
I have also heard a little birdie tell me that there might be, you're laughing because you know where I'm going with this. I've heard a little birdie tell me that there might be a face-to-face square-off with the Hulk and the Nature Boy.
Not gonna happen.
You're saying no, okay.
I mean, they may get in. Hogan may do the U. Flair throw a couple good chops and a couple good punches by Hogan, and that's going to be about it. You're not going to see anything other than that.
Okay, so now to tie in the question to the NWA and the Rock and Roll, how long then, Jeff, do you keep the vets around for?
You keep them around for as long as they're willing to stay and hang out in that back to keep everybody in line.
That's an interesting. I didn't think you were going to go there. Okay, to keep them in line. Okay.
To help out.
My thought would have been, again, see, but you're looking at it as the wrestling fan, this is why we got this back and forth, because I'm learning. So if I'm a guy that I consider myself a casual viewer, but you're a diehard,
right?
Okay, and that's why we get along so well. And so you're looking at this as the diehard wrestling guy.
Yep.
And I'm a guy who watches from time to time. I'm a casual viewer.
Yep.
If I'm looking at Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan, and I'm looking at them in 2019, I'm mighty disappointed at what I'm seeing, because I remember Hulk Hogan 30 years ago. I remember Ric Flair 35 years ago.
I may be disappointed in how they look, but the nostalgia part of it, for a lot of people, takes them back to being that child again. They're back into the 1980s in front of their TV and hearing Hogan. Let me tell you something, brother. I'm going to be there at the Philadelphia Spectrum, brother, and I'm going to be taking on Andre, that big burly giant Andre the Giant dude, and I'm going to slam that brother one more time, brother. And Ric Flair.
That was a great Hogan impression, by the way.
and Ric Flair, talking, they in a lot of people's minds, they may be old men, but to them, they still see them from the 1980s.
Well,
and again,
that's a good point that I didn't think about, that you brought up. The nostalgia factor.
Yep.
So now, but here's the other issue that I might have, though, and I'm sure you'll find a way to convince me otherwise. But, okay, I get the nostalgia factor, because believe it or not, I love the fact that the Rock and Roll is still out there. I don't like the fact that they're wearing the straps, though. That's my only problem with them.
I get what you're saying, but again, if you had a heel tag team, you need a face tag team to get your new heel.
Oh, yeah, but then Rock and Roll Express is super uber over.
And how do you not feel bad for these big, mean, nasty dudes just beat the hell out of two legends? They just beat the shit out of two legends and took the belts off of them. That will be equivalent, honestly, to the Road Warriors when they came in and they no-sold for Baron Von Raschke and the Crusher away. And they basically said, when the Crusher said, brother, you ain't picking me up for a press slam, and Animal looked at him and said, the hell I ain't. Oh, and that's what that crowd felt so bad for Baron and Crusher. By the end of it, they were selling out the rematches.
Yeah.
Not that the NWA is touring. Not that the NWA is touring, but by the time that the AWA was done with that loop again, the Road Warriors were established as these big, mean, nasty bastards that you weren't going to be able to beat.
Yeah, true enough. Yeah.
So you put.
Well, they were a physically imposing team. I've had a chance to meet the Road Warriors,
Oh, yeah.
God rest his soul, Hawk and Animal. Of course, Joe Laurinaitis is still around. But, Mike is no longer here. But, those two guys, they were, first of all, they looked like wrestlers. But they were big, imposing dudes. I mean, they were big guys.
And that's what I'm trying to say. The Dawsons may not have that muscle mass, but those two weigh over 300 pounds apiece.
Yeah.
They look the part of being wrestlers.
Oh, they're big old country boys is what they look like.
They're country strong, as the saying goes.
Yeah.
And they are just big and nasty that you just know that they can go in there and probably wreck shop. And again, you have them destroy the Rock and Roll Express.
Yeah.
And they get the belts. And now you're gonna make them even more hated.
Yeah.
You still endured the Rock and Roll Express to the fans, and you gave the Rock and Roll that nostalgic, one more time run with the belts.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
When will Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan go away?
Never.
Jeff, you just dashed my hopes, brother.
I think that both of them need that wrestling ring and the fans.
I was just going to ask you, do they want to be there or do they need to be there? Because I really believe my gut tells me, and I'm shooting straight serious.
Yeah.
My gut tells me that if Ric Flair stays away from the wrestling business, he'll die.
No, I was getting ready to say the same thing. I think if Vincent Hunter were to
he will literally die.
Yeah, no, I think if Vincent Hunter were to go to Rick and say, you know what, just stay at home and enjoy your retirement. We're not going to use you on TV anymore. The only time that you really need to even worry about coming backstage is any big event for Charlotte. Other than that, we don't want to see you.
Yeah. Now, what do you think happens if that conversation takes place?
I'm in agreement with you. I think Rick dies. I really do.
Yeah.
I don't think that he could handle. He himself has said.
Hey, let me ask you this, Jeff, and I'm going to interrupt you a minute. Yeah. I'm sorry, but that's what will happen to Rick, and you and I agree. But now, I don't think the same thing happens to Hulk.
No, I don't either. I don't know that Hulk needs the fans and the he likes that adoration and that the fan of going out there, but he gets that same interaction by his little beach bar or whatever he has down there in Tampa, where he can go out there and say I'm going to be there for 2 or 3 hours, and he has a few hundred fans that show up. He gets his rocks off. He's happy.
Yeah. Yeah, my impression is the same. I think that he's more likely to assimilate back into society. I don't think Ric Flair can.
I don't think he
knows. And here's why I believe that. And I think you'll agree with it. Terry Bollea knows that he's Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
Ric Flair is Ric Flair 24/7.
Ric Flair doesn't know how to turn Ric Flair off.
No, he is the gimmick. And I think that's the difference, and I think that's what'll kill him.
Well, I mean, as Beth Flair was quoted on 30 for 30 as saying, she used to have to tell Rick, I need Richard Flair and not Flair.
Yeah.
And I don't know that he doesn't know how to turn it off. I don't think he does.
I don't think he knows that he's Richard Flair.
I think he lost Richard Flair years ago.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
And I think he feels like he's got this persona that he's got to constantly live up to.
But he doesn't need to. That's the whole thing.
In his mind, he does.
Jeff, he doesn't need the money. He can't need the money.
Well, if he wasn't married to Wendy, he would.
Well,
brother, 4 divorces and 4 alimony payments.
Yeah, well, we're gonna dedicate an entire show to the Nature Boy. I mean, oh yeah, we are for sure. That ought to be an interesting one.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Good
I
night.
know Hogan doesn't need the money.
No.
The Hulk certainly made very wise, sound investments, I believe.
I'll say this: Linda got a good portion of his money, but he's definitely bounced back. So,
Well, yeah, but he has the ability, though, to do television
yep.
and movies. As you said, he owns the Beach Bar. Hulk Hogan's Beach Bar in Florida. He owns the gift shop.
Well, Hogan made wise investments. Hogan is also, and I'm not taking away from Ric Flair and who Ric Flair is, but Hogan is more of a culture icon or a pop icon than Ric Flair ever was. And
true enough.
That's not taking it. But everybody used to associate professional wrestling with the name Hulk Hogan back in the 80s.
Yeah, even if you didn't watch wrestling, you knew who Hulk Hogan was.
Me as a kid, I could tell if you were, in my eyes, a real wrestling fan versus a fan. A real wrestling fan, if I said, do you watch wrestling? And you said yes. If you gave me any other name besides Hulk Hogan, I knew you actually watched wrestling.
Yeah.
If I said, who's your favorite? And all you said was Hogan, I knew you didn't really watch it.
Yeah.
But I want to get into something really quick.
Sure.
Before we get ready to sign off or whatever. I want to get into last week. The talk of the internet a little bit was AEW's ratings dropped below 1 million, the number.
Yes, let's talk about that.
And WWE SmackDown was below 1 million. A lot of people are wondering, what's going on? Why would AEW now? I don't know that WWE needs, I'm not even going to say AEW needs to be pumping the brakes, but AEW should be more worried about the fact that their numbers have dropped steadily every week and haven't every week other than NXT had competition.
What do you think the root cause of that is? Why is that happening?
I think that they're okay. They hyped up who they were. People tuned in that initial week. They saw what they offered. They tuned in the second week and they're going, this is all right. By week 3, they're going, now you're starting to get into the silly gaga.
Yeah.
And
do you think it's turning into, let me back up a minute. When we first saw AEW, they debuted with a show called Double or Nothing.
But they weren't AEW yet.
Well, no, but they debuted with their head show was called Double or Nothing. Right? On that show, we saw wrestling, old school wrestling.
Yep.
Do you think that let me ask you this, are they getting too comfortable too quickly?
I think that they're resting in the laurels of, I wouldn't say too comfortable too quickly as much as it was that they were resting in the fact that they were the talk of the internet there because after their first 3 pay-per-views, and then they were hyped about their October debut, and then they come out of out of the gate swinging with a 1.5 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
They were starting to go, holy shit, anything we touch is turned into gold right now.
Right.
And now, and I said it, if people can go back and quote me, from that initial week when it first started or the week before it started, I made the comment of, it will be interesting. And I want to say I said it here on the podcast. It'll be interesting to see what happens once they have to go live every week.
Yeah.
Will they be able to keep those same viewers, or are they going to start losing them? What will be significant, though, is going to be tonight and see what kind of number, if they bounce back or if they stay down. Because last week, they were competing against the World Series.
Jeff, are the demographics for AEW, are they keeping that demographics, the 18 to 35-year-old?
That they're crushing WWE in.
Where are they losing? What's the demo?
The demo that they're losing is the 30 to 60-year-olds.
And that's where WWE is winning with the older viewer.
Yep.
The average viewer age for WWE programming, and this you can check this for yourself. We're not making these numbers up. The average age for WWE viewers is 52. Just to give you a heads up again, once again, I'm 60. Okay?
Yep.
The WWE average viewer is 52 years old. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who the hell is watching NWA?
They get any and everybody, whoever, by them being on YouTube, they don't have to worry about if you tune in at 6:05 or if you tune in on Friday at 2 in the morning, because it's a click and it's a download.
Yeah. Jeff, how did the World Series this week affect the wrestling product?
Because, well, for one, I think it did take away from the AEW viewers. And then the other one was on Friday night, SmackDown. Friday night SmackDown is normally aired on Fox, which is airing the World Series.
Yeah.
So they kicked them off and they said, nope, World Series first. You guys are going over here to FS1. FS1 is a cable channel that is not carried by every cable outlet out there.
Right, it's a subscription.
And if you don't have it on your cable package, how do you watch them?
Yeah, if you don't subscribe to FS1, you don't get it.
So here's what I was going to say. Did WWE really lose 70,000 viewers? Or was it those 70,000 just didn't have FS1 to watch?
Well, that's the magic question, yeah. And I don't know if we will ever
I would
know the answer to that.
I would actually lean more towards that as being the answer than...
I would agree. I would agree.
Because, I mean, you know, I may have wanted to watch it, but how can I watch it?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, if you don't have that channel, you're not going to watch it.
Right. Like I said, I think tonight will be the tell-all for where AEW stands. Do they rebound? I don't know. If there's a World Series game again tonight, there's no chance because it's a Game 7. There's no chance that anybody's going to compete with that. You can't. But if it's not tonight, I will really be curious as to where their ratings are. I really will, because if they stay below 1 million, they're in trouble. They really are. I'm not going to say like they're going to go out of business trouble, but you may need to go back to the drawing board and see where we need to tweak some things and change some things.
Yeah, well, I don't think they're going to go out of business trouble. I think Tony Khan has all but guaranteed that he's willing to invest not only his time and energy, but his money.
Yep.
And he's got a hell of a lot more than Vince McMahon does.
You know, but it's kind of what, you know, people used to say when TNA was owned by the Carter family. How much money are you willing to lose before you finally pull the plug? And here, you know what? I'm going to get into something else. Something else that really, you know, has been a talk about, you know, between me and some of my wrestling friends this week. And that is, it's been coming out a little bit about, you know, wrestlers and you know, the fact that they only get like a 5% merch sales from WWE.
Okay.
And people trying to say, okay, they're, you know, they should be getting more. What people wrestling fans need to quit comparing the wrestling business to other sports entities. They're like no other. They can't be run like a baseball team.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
It can't be run like a football team who may have multiple people paying into the ownership or whatever of the team. They've got one man in the WWE, ultimately Vince McMahon, paying out everybody.
Yes.
Eventually, that money well will run dry if you keep
on. We should point out, though, that while wrestling may be a sport, professional wrestling is not.
Yep, it's entertainment.
Exactly. And so you cannot, by definition, treat it like a sport. You can give it a sport-centric feel,
Yep.
like AEW is doing or NWA, but let's be real clear about it. Professional wrestling was, is, and will always remain a product of entertainment, not sport.
There you go.
So we got to be, I mean, and I know people are going to get pissed off at me for saying that. It's not real. Is it great entertainment? Yeah. Do people get hurt? Yes, they do. But it's not a sport.
It's an athletic competition.
It's an entertainment-based athletic competition. I'll give you an example. If Tom Cruise is doing a movie, okay?
Yep.
And he's doing a fight scene in the movie, is that a real fight?
No. And on top of that, he's got a stand-in.
Exactly. You're talking about a business where everybody in the business is a stand-in. They're all stuntmen.
Well,
to some degree. Well, I mean, I'm using that general term, but let's be honest about it.
You know what? You're not also in the middle of a match going to go yell, cut.
Well, exactly. But here's the difference, though. Tom Cruise's stuntman knows how to take a punch. He knows how to fall. He knows how to sell getting hurt. That's what pro wrestlers do.
Oh, yeah, but they've been trained too.
That's my point.
Okay. And what I was gonna say though, and that there you go. Again, why it's a different world. And yet everybody, okay, here it is. Casual fans and non-wrestling fans are quick to point out wrestling's fake. It's all fake, it's not real. But then they want to turn around and group it into the sports category and go, but why aren't you treating them like you do other athletes? Because
because they're not.
No, they are an athlete, but they're not playing for a team.
Well, there's no team in wrestling.
So
there's also no season in wrestling.
There you go. And so you can't sit there and expect wrestling to be treated like they do other sports.
Right.
And yet you got fans who are like, well, why aren't they paid? Look at, and it's like, you can't sit there and treat it like you do other.
No, you can't.
And I think, and what I was getting at though, I think Tony Khan, when he first started with AEW, if you look at a lot of what he was saying in the press statements of, I'm going to offer this and I'm going to offer that, and a lot of it he hadn't come through with, i.e., he said, oh, I'm going to offer insurance for the boys. Guess what? They haven't been offered it yet. Guess why? Because it's easier to list them as an independent contractor instead of paying out insurance for 50-something wrestlers that are your employees.
Yeah.
That now you got to pay a tax on and everything else.
Yeah, well, that's all going to be part of our conversation about wrestling finance, and I'm sure you'll get, we'll get well in depth with that. But suffice it to say, that's a Pandora's box that when we do open it, oh boy,
we're going to be diving for a while.
And then we're also going to include in that the ever taboo subject of unions for wrestlers. And that's a subject that's been addressed by people like Hulk Hogan, Jesse Ventura, Bret Hart, and that all ties into the finance too. So, yeah, and I'm sure you have some strong opinions about, wrestling for, union wrestlers.
Yeah,
that's a whole nother, I guess, a whole nother can of worm, a whole nother can of whoop ass.
There you go.
Well, listen, my friend, we're at the end of another episode.
Absolutely.
I just want to remind our listeners and viewers that we will have part 2 coming up of my conversation with independent icon Armageddon. That will be, I think I'm recording that with him on Monday, and that will drop on Tuesday onto YouTube and Podbean across all our platforms. Once again, I want to give everybody our platforms, which are Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and iTunes, as soon as we can work out the bugs with iTunes.
That's right.
We have now a couple of ways to contact us. You can reach us here at the podcast level on all of our platforms. Just hit us up and send us a comment or note.
Yep.
Or you can go to our YouTube or Gmail. Very simple. wrestlingwiththefuture@yahoo.com or wrestlingwiththefuture@gmail.com. So we have, if you don't have Gmail, we have Yahoo. If you don't have Yahoo, we have Gmail.
And we also on Twitter at Wrestling with the Future.
Oh, yeah, we are at Wrestling Future on Twitter.
Yeah.
And just as soon as Jeff puts it together, we're going to have a Facebook.
You got it.
Because I don't know how to do that stuff. Jeff,
yeah.
Plug Vanguard.
VCW, we are found at vcw-wrestling.com and on YouTube under VCW Wrestling or Vanguard Championship Wrestling. Our next big show is December the 7th. It is Seasons, Beatings, Tidings, and it's a pretty big show because this year we are bringing in the one, the only, Mick Foley will be coming in doing autograph signing, and he's also going to do a special in-ring segment with Tim Louise, who is kind of got a Roddy Piper type segment that he does. Again, you can find him on YouTube. I had you watching a couple of the videos from this past week, and
yeah, I have to tell you, I love the product. It's a great product. It's a great venue. I love your venue. It's amazing.
What I can safely say is our wrestlers at least all have wrestling gear. You're not having a bunch of guys in jeans and t-shirts that pretend to be wrestlers.
Exactly.
So
I want to let everybody know this is really important, and I want everybody out there who downloads our podcast and listens to us on YouTube or all of our platforms, we have a mailbag.
Yeah.
Send us letters, questions, comments. WrestlingWithTheFuture@yahoo.com. WrestlingWithTheFuture@gmail.com. Hit us up. We want to hear from you.
Absolutely.
Jeff, how do people get a hold of you?
You can find me over there on Twitter at Jeff the Ref. No, I don't even remember what my Twitter. I want to say it's Jeff the Ref, but I could find it really quick. But
well, you can. They can certainly hit you up at Wrestling Future.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No. The best way to get a hold of me is at Wrestling Future on Twitter. Or I'm also on Twitter at JeffRock41977. And there you go. You can find me over there.
There you go.
And that is the best way to get a hold of me. And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions or comments that you may have. You got a good enough one, I'll be more than happy to even talk about it here on the air.
Terrific. All right, everybody. That wraps up another episode of Wrestling with the Future. I am Psychic Medium Angelo for Jeff the Ref Robinson. We'll see you at the matches. Happy wrestling, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.